President Trump, please stop making this political. It is not about you, President Trump.
Yes, the Democrat Party's Dog and Pony Show on Capitol Hill with the U.S. Capitol behind them today, talking about the Epstein documents, which presumably will be released today, or at least the vote will take place today to release the Epstein documents, which didn't happen for years while Joe Biden was president. Now, 10 months into the Trump administration, suddenly it's vitally important that the documents be released. That soundbite was from a woman who was identified on CNN and MSNBC as an Epstein victim. And I've got to say, I was like, well, wait a minute, ma'am, you were there. Perhaps you should start naming names. How about that? How about the women come forward and have a press conference and name names? That'd be helpful. Pretty good idea, I think. And a very good and happy Tuesday to you. We are at 888-630-9625. Chuck Schumer with some of the weaseliest responses I've ever heard, even from him yesterday. When asked by a reporter why the Epstein documents were not released during the 4 years of Joe Biden, when the Biden administration had all of the documents in their possession, in their custody. And what did Chuck Schumer do? He said, yeah, why doesn't Trump come out and say something?
Senator, on that note, just I guess a question that's out there. Why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Not every American, but so many Americans are asking. What the hell is he hiding?
I'm sorry. No, I said Joe Biden. I don't, listen, fire retardant. You didn't hear what I said just seconds ago, or you don't understand what the words mean, or what is going. Yeah, what the hell is he had? No, the question was, and again, no follow-up question from the reporter there. Question is, what have you been hiding for the last 5 years at least? In fact, there was one of the women up there today saying that this cover-up's been going on for 5 presidential administrations, she said. Now, I don't know that the Epstein saga beat a path to the White House in 5 different administrations, but certainly in the Clinton administration it did. And Bill Clinton, after leaving the White House, flew on Lolita One on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet. How many times? And they had Jeffrey Epstein over to the Clinton White House. How many times? How many times? Over many, many times, more than a dozen times, Jeffrey Epstein to the White House with Ghislaine Maxwell while he was president. Bill Clinton was president, and Jeffrey Epstein was there at the White House. And then he's at the White House again. And then a dozen times later, he's at the White House again. And there's Ghislaine Maxwell, and she really liked the president. You know what the president really likes? Michael, what does the president really, what does Bill Clinton really like? But we'd have to, I don't know, somebody get Ghislaine Maxwell on the horn. Get her. When I say get her on the horn, that is not a double entendre. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that great? Now, the Democrats, again, you had Jeffrey Epstein and his very close personal relationship with Bill Clinton. And that has been well established. And the people in the New York Times, if you ask the editors of the New York Times about that today, they'd say, who's Bill Clinton? They would have no idea. But Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein on Lolita One, the airplane, and Jeffrey Epstein over to the Bill Clinton White House, and the news media thinks, and of course Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi, they don't see any problem with any of this because, it's not a problem when you're a Democrat. You just ignore it because the New York Times will and CNN will, and it doesn't matter how many times you had Jeffrey Epstein over to the White House when you were president. Doesn't it matter how many times you used his private jet? And again, where he took the private jet to Africa. And who was the actor? Kevin Spacey. Had Kevin Spacey, who's famous for groping young boys backstage at theaters. Isn't it amazing? Your Democrat Party. And, the Epstein plane and Bill Clinton pay no attention. The Clinton White House with Jeffrey Epstein, no problem. Why would that be an issue? Wah, wah, wah. And what the news media produces is, here's a headline from the Palm Beach Post in Palm Beach, rich people, Florida. Epstein wrote Clinton, quote, never, ever, end quote, went to his island. But listen to this. It's an amazing thing. Epstein wrote Clinton never, ever went to his island, but, comma, like Trump, comma, he flew on his jet. He flew on his jet. Now, how many times? Let's get how many times, and where did they go? Isn't that amazing? Oh, yeah? I'm sorry, we're talking about Bill Clinton over here, aren't we? And in the headline, they build Trump into the headline. Isn't that amazing? Trump never went to Epstein Island either, did to Pedophile Island. It's PI, they call it PI. Epstein PI. It's not a private investigator like Magnum PI. It's Pedophile Island. They've got that going. And Epstein said in an email, in part, thousands of documents released by the committee on November 12th that Clinton never went to the island. Clinton was never, ever there. Never, Epstein wrote. But that's not the beginning and the ending of all of that. The Palm Beach Post decided to leave it at that because they're communists and they're not journalists. Isn't that amazing? Clinton denies having gone to Epstein Island. So let's see how they're backing up Clinton here with every sentence. Isn't that amazing? But, hey, where's the part where he flew on Epstein's jet more than a dozen times? And where were they going? And why did Bill Clinton instruct the Secret Service to violate Secret Service protocol and not be on the jet? And Kevin Spacey commented about, hey, these girls are awfully young, aren't they? Boy, these girls on a plane taking your coat and that kind of taking your coat. That's a euphemism. They're awfully young, aren't they? And Kevin Spacey, the boy groper, made note of that. Isn't that fascinating? So, man, oh, man. Clinton flew to Palm Beach, Florida from U.S. Virgin Islands. But that's where Epstein Island is. That's in the Virgin Islands. That's ironically, perhaps. Isn't that amazing? And so they had Epstein over to the Clinton White House more than a dozen times. Clinton used the Jeffrey Epstein plane more than a dozen times, instructed the Secret Service to violate their own protocols and not be with the former president on the airplane. And that's okay. Now, let's go to another Democrat and Jeffrey Epstein, because there is the delegate, the U.S. delegate to the House of Representatives from the U.S. Virgin Islands. Her name is Stacey Plaskett. And again, she represents non-voting delegate, like my non-voting delegate, Eleanor Holmes Norton in Washington, D.C. And it's good that she's a non-voting delegate. She shouldn't be allowed to vote even in presidential elections. She's a dimwit, but never mind that. In 2019, there was a hearing on Capitol Hill, and a former Trump lawyer named Michael Cohen, who turned against Trump, was invited to testify on Capitol Hill with the Democrats. And Michael Cohen was sitting there being an idiot like he usually is in 2019. And Stacey Plaskett was on the committee. And Stacey Plaskett was sitting there. There's video, what with the patriarchy and everything. They created television and television cameras, and they can feed it out to the world. And there's Stacey Plaskett, the Democrat delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands, where you will find Epstein Island, also known as Epstein PI, the pedophile island. And so she knows all about Jeffrey Epstein. And Jeffrey Epstein had her cell phone number and was texting her during the hearing. And some of these texts have now emerged, while he was texting her, she was taking what Jeffrey Epstein was feeding her and just converting his text messages to her, his private personal text messages to the Democrat Stacey Plaskett representing the U.S. Virgin Islands, and converting that into questions in real time. So imagine this now. Jeffrey Epstein is at home, wherever, in his $90 million New York mansion, or on his private pedophile island, or in his Palm Beach estate. Very, very wealthy man. Never did anything to help anybody, but got very wealthy doing it. And Stacey Plaskett is sitting there smirking and smiling. Get her text from Jeffrey Epstein, who's sitting there, being a pornster wherever, let's just say New York and Manhattan, texting her, watching her on C-SPAN, and texting her, and she's taking what Epstein is texting her and turning them into questions for the hearing.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? As Ms. Rona, what is Ms. Rona's position?
Rona Graff is Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his, and she's involved in a lot.
Epstein was texting U.S. House member during 2019 hearing. Isn't that remarkable? And when you're a Democrat, that's not a problem for you. That's not a thing. And it's like, well, this has got nothing to do with Democrats or with Stacey Plaskett. So Epstein was texting U.S. House member during 2019 hearing with Michael Cohen. Newly revealed documents show sex offender messaged lawmaker and may have influenced their questioning. That'd be her questioning. I don't think she uses they, their pronouns or anything. Newly released documents from Jeffrey Epstein's estate show the convicted sex offender appeared to be texting with a member of Congress quite clearly and obviously. Not only did it appear that way, it's obvious and irrefutable that that's what's going on. During a 2019 House hearing with Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's former fixer and personal attorney, and that those messages may have influenced, understatement, the lawmakers' questioning. The documents provided to Congress this week include transcripts suggesting Jeffrey Epstein was in direct contact with the lawmaker as the hearing unfolded, the Washington Post reports. Although the transcripts do not name the lawmaker Epstein was texting during the February 2019 hearing, an analysis by the Washington Post suggests it was Stacey Plaskett. Here's the video and here are the text messages. You guys are real Columbos over here, aren't you? The U.S. Virgin Islands, Stacey Plaskett, the U.S. Virgin Islands non-voting Democratic delegate, by matching the timestamps of the messages to the video of the hearing. Oh, boy, and you think you're getting close, huh? The analysis concluded that Plaskett was the member of Congress in contact with Epstein at the time Michael Cohen was appearing before the House Oversight Committee to testify against Trump, accusing him of racism. Racism, naturally, the party of the lynch mob. Isn't that amazing? So there it is, and there's video, and I've just played the audio that is most pertinent, most relevant, I think. And so we've got, let me see, Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, Stacey Plaskett, the contributions coming from Epstein to Hillary Clinton in the tens of thousands of dollars, the pile of money to Bill Clinton, the left-wing group recruiting Jeffrey Epstein to promote Hakeem Jeffries when he was a freshman member of the House of Representatives from Brooklyn, New York. And they're like, oh, yeah, he's the future Obama. So naturally they had to get Jeffrey Epstein involved. He should have been the DNC chair, honestly. Isn't that amazing? Now, a reporter asked, speaking of Hakeem, the communist jihadi Jeffries, who was helped out by Jeffrey Epstein when Jeffrey Epstein was called in to help out the freshman member of the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries. Yesterday, a reporter asked Hakeem Jeffries about Stacey Plaskett and the time-stamped text messages and the video obviously being fed information in real time during a hearing by Jeffrey Epstein personally himself from his personal phone. And here's what the criminal Hakeem Jeffries did.
Why should Americans trust you and House Democrats on the Jeffrey Epstein files when one of your own, Congresswoman Plaskett, was found to be texting with Jeffrey Epstein during a hearing, getting information from him, using that in her questioning during a congressional hearing, and at one point he tells her, good job.
This is a bipartisan effort to make sure that, consistent with what the survivors have requested, that there's full and complete transparency in every single predator who may be in those Justice Department files
dodging the
doesn't
question.
Escape accountability.
That had nothing to do with the question. He might have, was he just hitting the back of the head with a shovel? Because that had, what he said was not a response, not an answer. It was a mental, maybe a stroke. Maybe he had a stroke or something. Isn't that amazing? Man, the Democrats. And they get away with it every day because of the filthy, corrupt, third world Soviet-style news media that we have. When the Virgin Mary said, let it be done to me according to your word, she embraced God's plan. Even with uncertainty, risk, and sacrifice, her yes brought Jesus into the world. And today, countless mothers across the United States face the same moment of decision when they see their baby on ultrasound. They might be scared, they might be unsure, but the moment to say yes could pass. But you could make a difference in the lives of these women and the babies right now. Because of your generosity, the generosity of listeners like you, Preborn's network of clinics can help provide immediate support, helping thousands of mothers to embrace life. And over 380,000 babies have already been rescued by Preborn. This holiday season, don't let another life be lost. Be the hope for hurting mothers and at-risk babies. Just say yes to life today. To donate securely, all you have to do is dial pound 250, and when prompted, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, the keyword is baby, or you can go online and visit preborn.com/plant. Preborn.com/PLANTE. Every gift is, of course, tax deductible and impacts, life for eternity. That's all. Yes. Yeah, so I'm sorry, Schumer's response was like he was having a stroke or a mental breakdown. So completely unrelated to the question. Then we get to Hakeem. Is he having a stroke? Completely unrelated to the question. Well, the Democrats are trying to murder this Epstein story in 5 different ways. They smugly and arrogantly, like Chuck Schumer, the Lizard King, and Hakeem Jeffries, come out. And they got a couple of reporters, asked them straight questions, and you know how they hate that. And they gave the most incoherent, nonsensical answers that anyone has ever heard to any question anywhere. And unfortunately, the reporters didn't pick up on the fact that they were just being rolled. But isn't that amazing? The New York Times says new email shows that Mr. Summers, the former president of Harvard and Treasury Secretary under Clinton, continued to keep in touch with Jeffrey Epstein for years after he faced sex trafficking charges. Oh, I hope there will be a vote today, and I hope that all the documents are released, and then the New York Times will do a word search for the word Trump, and they'll ignore the rest. And they'll ignore the Democrat delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands, Stacey Plaskett, getting her instructions during a hearing live on television as to what she should be saying to a disgraced former Trump lawyer, Michael Cohen. They're going to ignore Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries evading all questions and coming up with these Soviet-style non-responses. Just extraordinary. Now, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Congressman Mike Johnson, holding a press conference today at length on Capitol Hill about all of this. And one of the things that Mike Johnson is talking about is in releasing the documents. And now, I don't know why everything takes years and years and years in Washington, D.C. It should not. But there are lots and lots of documents. There are apparently, according to multiple reports at least, there are, and the New York Times is all over this, naturally. They like it. They like this because they can just talk about Trump the whole time. But according to documentation, the Epstein files say there's more than 100,000 pages. I think President Trump said that 50,000 pages had already been released. I don't know if that's an accurate number. 300 gigabytes of data. This includes investigative materials for the various legal actions, flight logs for Lolita 1 when Bill Clinton was on it, and all kinds of evidence. And, there are those who say, hey, President Trump has the authority to just release him right now, snap the fingers, declassify everything, release it. But it does get a little bit complicated. The Speaker of the House today on Capitol Hill ticking off issues that he says are concerns, area of concern. And he had a big graphic made up and put it on an easel. Dangers of the discharge petition, if not amended. All right? And he lists things here. Number 1 is victim privacy does not adequately protect victims. And I've talked about this before. A lot of the documents will have the names of the young women. There are legal issues. Also, a lot of money has been dispersed, many, many millions of dollars, to the women involved in this scandal. But number 1, according to the Speaker of the House, victim privacy, that the discharge petition, as it is absurdly known, does not adequately protect victims. So do you go through and redact the names of the victims, and then you're releasing redacted documents? And I personally don't like that. Number 2, innocent persons. I talked about this the other day, too. Risks disclosure of non-credible allegations, creating new victims. That is to say that, and I think I used Michael Piercy as the example the other day. So if a woman comes forward and accuses Michael Piercy of some kind of wrongdoing, I just like to use him because he's the only one here. And that's good enough for me. So women have come forward and they accused Michael Piercy, and then Michael Piercy's name is in the documents. But Michael Piercy didn't do anything. He's, I'm going to not say what I'm thinking now. I'm just going to move on. But but he's not guilty. So you release documents, got the names of the victims, of the women that were underage, and that's another issue, underage, at the time of the crime. And you can't just go throwing their names out everywhere. And these documents, they're court documents and all kinds of other things. And innocent persons, risk disclosure of non-credible allegations, creating new victims. That is, people are not guilty of anything, but you suggest that they are guilty. And then they've got CSAM, C-S-A-M, fails to adequately protect against the release of child sexual abuse materials. Now, what exactly that means, I don't know. I'm going to guess that Epstein and his creepy creeps photographed some of the hijinks, and that maybe for legal reasons, for prosecution, that there are graphic photographs in the mix in the documents, and that would be part of the 100,000 documents. So child sexual abuse materials. And then future investigations. The Speaker of the House says today another potential risk of just voting to release this, and then it's all released. The government does everything wrong, so even when they're trying to do the right thing, it's quite probable they could screw it up and get everything wrong. So future investigations. It provides no protections for whistleblowers or undercover law enforcement, etc. All right, so there have been people that have come forward and been whistleblowers. There have been law enforcement that were undercover in investigations, and their identities could be spilled all over the pages of the New York Times and onto CNN if every document is released. Then declassification is the number 5 of 5 that the Speaker talked about today. Requires release of information that could reveal confidential methods and sources. They always love the sources and methods. I prefer sources and methods to methods and sources, but that's me, probably old school. So we've got that going on, and that the Speaker out there is saying, well, we want to release the documents, but here are some of the related problems, and those can lead to lawsuits and even to criminal actions, and you could be sticking it to whistleblowers and to undercover law enforcement and of course, the women who were targeted by these creeps. And are you going to reveal their identities in the documents? Because many of the documents will reveal their identities, and risk disclosing allegations that are not credible, and accusing people without any due process, just putting them out there for the New York Times to go with. So those are some legitimate issues. And I've talked about, maybe not all of these, but I've talked about the documents revealing the identities of the women, maybe of people who are not guilty of crimes but are mentioned in the documents. And there's a due process issue there and all of that good stuff. So we've got that. Now, Hakeem Jeffries, let's get back to Hakeem, who, based on my reading of his face, is a criminal. And I'm real good at this. I've lived in Washington, D.C. for a long time, and I grew up in Chicago. So I'm pretty good at seeing a face and saying, that guy's a criminal. Stay away from him. And I see Hakeem Jeffries, who had another left-wing group recruited Jeffrey Epstein to promote, prop up, fund Hakeem Jeffries when he was a first-term member of the House of Representatives. No problem there. Yesterday, a Fox News reporter named Aisha Hasni, very lovely and seems to be a nice reporter, Aisha Hasni, and she found Hakeem Jeffries walking in a hallway on Capitol Hill and tried to ask him about Stacey Plaskett, the Democrat from the U.S. Virgin Islands, which is where Epstein's pervert island is, pedophile island is, and she represents the U.S. Virgin Islands, the land of Epstein Island, and she's getting text messages directly from Jeffrey Epstein during a House hearing that was being carried live on TV, and she was essentially reading off of her phone what Jeffrey Epstein was feeding her in text messages while they were trying to get Trump. And again, they keep saying, yeah, Trump, Epstein. Every step of the way, Epstein is trying to stab Trump in the front, trying to stab Trump in the back, trying to stab Trump every way he can. And here's Aisha Hasni finding Hakeem Jeffries walking on Capitol Hill yesterday.
Stacey Plaskett just talking to a sex trafficker during a hearing.
I haven't had a conversation with Stacey Plaskett.
But does that trouble you?
I have not had a conversation with Stacey Plaskett. In fact, I think Stacey Plaskett has issued a statement as it relates to this, and her statement speaks for itself.
And that's it. So, but you're the Democrat leader in the House of Representatives. I'm asking you about one of your caucus, one of your members, during a House hearing, getting text messages directly from a serial child rapist who ran a worldwide network of child rapists, and your member was getting her messages directly from Jeffrey Epstein to her personal phone, her cell phone, from his personal phone, like they're old pals, and she was parroting, Plaskett was parroting Jeffrey Epstein's talking points live on television in a House hearing. And then he says, well, I haven't had a chance to. She put out a statement, and the statement, no, the question is not, I'll ask her about her statement. I'm asking you as the Democrat leader in the House of Representatives, what is your take on your creepy U.S. Virgin Islands delegate with her creepiness? Honestly. And then on CNN yesterday, Jake Tapper, he's a former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer, right, who dated Monica Lewinsky, and did he go to Chelsea Clinton's wedding or not? Because he certainly should have. He worked for the mother of the groom. She's was a House member on Capitol Hill. Her husband went to prison for being a corrupt House member. But never mind that. Jake Tapper talking to Jasmine Crockett yesterday on CNN, and it's just everything is let's ambush Republicans.
Today, Speaker Johnson told CNN's Manu Raju that he never tried to kill the discharge petition to force this onto the floor, the Epstein bill, onto the floor for a vote. But he shares President Trump's concerns about the bill. What's your response to that?
I would cuss, but I'm not going to. I'm going to just say he's full of
what?
it. Number one.
Mrs. Cable, you can cuss.
I'm not going to do it, but I am going to say that he is full of, okay, I'm going to do it. He's full of shit.
There it is. They're keeping it classy, keeping it highbrow over at CNN. Again, the White House is going to have to cancel the press credentials for one of these news organizations one of these days when they've proven again and again and again that they're not legitimate journalistic organizations. They're nothing of the kind. They're just Democrat Party front groups, shills, and Jake Tapper is certainly one of those.
Mrs. Cable, you can cuss.
Yeah, this is cable. You can, this is cable. You can go topless too. Why don't you tell her, hey, Jake? I don't know if you're straight or what. There was that Monica Lewinsky moment, but I think I spent more time with Monica Lewinsky than Jake Tapper did. But that's another discussion for another day. We didn't date. It was a work environment in my case. That's a thing. But hey, Jake, it's cable. You could all be naked, but that's not really important. Hey, it's cable. You can cuss. The Democrat Party and the news media, but I repeat myself. Aren't they amazing? All right, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Anthony calling from Chicago, Illinois, listening on the great WLS. Anthony, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to say, I've never heard the issue of where were the parents of all these young, innocent girls? I mean, if I have some 14, 15, 16-year-old girl, I want to know where they're at, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times a day.
Yeah.
And I never heard that addressed. Have you heard that addressed?
I'm glad you brought that up because, honestly, Michael and I were discussing this just a few minutes ago, that how did these young women find their way? I know that Giselle, who's in prison now for 20 years, was supposed to be the recruiter or something. But Michael and I were just having the same discussion. Do these women have any parents? Did they have parents when they were teenagers? Were any of the parents facilitating this, thinking, oh, this will be great for you? He's a New York billionaire. He's a financier, private jet, private island, a $80 million mansion in Manhattan. This will be great for you, honey, because, we're talking about Democrat families and New York families, and a lot of people are greedy and have bad judgment. But I got to tell you, Anthony, it is, I think you raise a very legitimate question. And why have the parents not been flooding CNN and MSNBC and telling their stories while keeping their daughters' names anonymous or confidential? And we were just talking about that, Anthony. And why is it that it's up to you, Anthony, instead of Jake Tapper, to start asking questions that matter?
Well, maybe you heard me laughing under my breath, but that's the opinion I formed too, that the parents were co-conspirators, if you will.
Well, you have to wonder. You have to, and yes. It's New York, and they're Democrats, and as a creepy billionaire, they may not know anything about his reputation. And look, and if that's their story, then I would accept the story of the parents probably, if they were credible and believable. But it is peculiar, I've got to say, Anthony, that none of the parents, no angry father, no crying mother, has come forward to 60 Minutes or to CNN or MS-13 DNC. And where are the parents and all that? And these women, this is some of these decades and decades ago, and some of these women are middle-aged women now, and it's been awfully quiet for years and years now, hasn't it, Anthony?
Yeah, it sure has been. I remember you probably heard me refer to these young girls as holy innocents. When I was a teenager, I knew some wholly uninnocent girls. So you combine the parents with the girls, and this is what we have. And I'll let it go at that. I thank you for taking my call. Thank you very much,
Anthony. Yeah, thanks. And it's when you're at teenage years are different, and God bless them all. Let me just say that, because the teenage years and all that. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier is finally available to all of us, and it builds on the incredible success of the first 2 generations, which earned thousands of 5-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet. And this new Thunderstorm uses 2 technologies that studies have shown help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses, removes dust and pet hair and smoke and all kinds of stuff from the air that you and your family breathe at home, at the office. And it can also get rid of any odor, any stinky smell. The Thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky smell, guaranteed. Odors from kitty litter boxes and trash cans and cigarette smoke and liberal protesters. Musty basements are no match for the Eden Pure thunderstorm, and the smell will disappear in a matter of seconds. Right now, because we hang out together, you can save $200 American on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. Put one on every floor. Put one in your kitchen, in your teenager's room, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code CHRIS3, CHRIS and the number 3 to save $200 on 3 thunderstorms. They make great gifts, too. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. Yes, sir. Yeah, and, well, there's more on this. And as politics is an ugly, awful business, that's why, it's hard to find decent people that want to be in politics anymore. We're at 888-630-9625. We're having this big internet outage in the United States today, too, because of an outfit called Cloudflare. Very unusual. A spike in traffic. It might have been hacked. But there is, if your internet's not working as usual today, then it might have something to do with this Cloudflare outage. And I had, even at home today, I was on my iPad, actually sitting up in bed with my best girl, eating breakfast foods and working on my iPad. And a lot of things were not loading on the internet. Websites I was trying to go to, links that had been sent to me. A lot of things weren't working. And then I learned this, and now the latest is internet crashes again. Cloudflare outage, unusual traffic spike, and raising the question, is it a hack? Is it a hack? Chuck Schumer's a hack. I know that much. That much I can tell you. So we've got that, and I'm going to keep my ear to the ground on that outage. The outage, and Jeffrey Epstein, very much in the news. The late, never great Jeffrey Epstein, a lifelong Democrat, a senior Democrat, a giant Democrat donor with Democrat friends everywhere. And the media is waging a jihad against Trump because they're mental.